Hey, what's up everybody, and welcome back to another episode of News Dose, where I keep you up to date with all of the latest gaming news. And as we talked about yesterday, there may be a next generation console event happening sometime in May. This was reported by the very trustworthy insider Daniel Ahmad, so I assume it's pretty accurate. The thing about that is, this story has been developing over the last 24 hours, and now it looks like it's related to the more affordable next generation Xbox, the Xbox Series S. So we're going to talk all about that, plus NPD sales numbers came out which reveals how well the game industry is doing in the United States. It's been a really weird month, but fortunately, the game industry is firing on all cylinders, and especially Nintendo, because they put up some crazy numbers in March. I mean, it's actually unbelievable how well the Switch is doing in its third year on the market, so stay tuned for that as well. First though, let's go over some quick news, and to start things off, we have Danganronpa, which is actually one of my favorite PlayStation Vita franchises. And I know it did later go to the PlayStation 4 and PC, but I personally played this game on the Vita, and it really is a good franchise. It is a little bit weird, and it's very dark. I mean, it is all about high school classmates murdering each other in a killing game and trying to get away with it, because if they do, they will be sent home. The story really is interesting and trying to solve each case, but why am I even talking about Danganronpa? Well, the Danganronpa trilogy will be headed to mobile devices. I mean, honestly, I would have much preferred a Nintendo Switch release, but with that said, I do think Danganronpa will fit rather well on mobile devices. It plays very much like a visual novel with a few added additions, so the controls should translate well to a touchscreen. And if you ask me, this will automatically be one of the best mobile games as soon as it releases, barring any kind of game-breaking bugs. I mean, you never really know when it comes to mobile devices, but do try Danganronpa if you're interested, even in the slightest. Also, Final Fantasy VII Remake has been confirmed to have sold 3.5 million units within its first 3 days on the market, which is outstanding. I really like this game a lot. The characters and story are just done so well, and the world is just so fully realized, minus some texture and anti-aliasing issues, but I really am glad to see Square Enix just do so well with this remake. And with all this success, I think Square Enix should really heavily consider remaking some of the other classic Final Fantasy games, such as Final Fantasy VI, 8, and 9. Especially 6 though. I mean, if we're talking about an epic story and world, Final Fantasy VI would be amazing. Granted, it is a huge game and maybe really tough to remake. For that matter, we're not even finished with the 7 remake yet, so we're probably talking like another decade from now before we see another Final Fantasy remake, if they ever do one like the 7 remake again. Nonetheless though, big congrats to Square Enix, and what's so amazing about all this is that Final Fantasy VII Remake will be releasing on other platforms next year. So when all is said and done, how much will Final Fantasy VII Remake sell across all platforms? Could it end up being the best selling in the franchise? I mean, it is very possible. Moving on though, we got a huge update for Super Mario Maker 2, and this update is phenomenal. Not only does it add the 7 Koopalings and a bunch of power-ups, which includes the frog suit and the Goomba mask, but it also allows you to create complete worlds. In fact, you can create up to 8 worlds linked together with 40 courses, and then go share that world with the community. So yeah, you're practically able to create your own Mario game now, and here's the thing. This update is completely 100% free. That is mind-blowing. This is one of the best updates I've ever personally seen, and while I don't think I necessarily have the creativity to create some great Mario game, I am however very excited to see what the community can come up with. This will give Mario Maker 2 so much more life, and I hope we can see some high quality worlds. Oh, and by the way, it releases tomorrow. That's right, you only have to wait one day to play this new update, so one more game to keep you busy. Now speaking of Nintendo, let's talk about NPD, because we got some big sales numbers for the month of March across the industry in the United States, and really, the entire industry is doing really well. I really do wonder if a part of the reason is because so many people are stuck at home, and a lot of people are probably playing games right now. That's a great way to keep yourself entertained, and you can still socialize with your friends, but yeah, the Xbox One and the PlayStation 4 are up 25% year over year in terms of dollar sales. So big congrats to both of them on a successful March, but just wait until you hear the Nintendo numbers, because the Nintendo Switch had the biggest month of March for any console ever, or at least since NPD has been tracking these numbers. So we are talking, at the very least, probably around 920,000 units, and that's just the United States alone. So what this means is that the Switch sold over 1 million units in the month of March worldwide. That is just crazy, and it's absolutely unheard of outside of the holiday months. I couldn't believe it when I first heard the news, and it really goes to show you one of the reasons people are having such a hard time finding the Switch in stores right now. I mean, scalpers do play a role in that as well, but it does seem like Nintendo is just knocking it out of the park right now, and one reason why is because Animal Crossing New Horizons. As we all know, Animal Crossing New Horizons has been doing very well, but apparently, Animal Crossing New Horizons is the third biggest Nintendo launch ever, and it's already the best-selling in the franchise. I mean, you're talking about outselling Mario games and Zelda games, which are staple franchises for Nintendo. I really did not see this one coming. I knew Animal Crossing was popular, but we're seeing this franchise grow before our very eyes into one of the biggest in the entire industry. With that said, you can be certain Nintendo will be making Animal Crossing a mainstay from this point forward. In fact, we all know Nintendo likes to do spin-offs of their big franchises, so I wouldn't be surprised to see some spin-offs as well, but I'm just spitballing now. I don't necessarily know if they would actually do that or not, but this truly is astounding. Beyond Nintendo games though, let's take a look at the top 20 best-selling games in the United States for March. And no surprise, Call of Duty came in second place. The third place did surprise me. MLB The Show 2020 did take third place, and apparently it outsold Resident Evil 3, which we know sold 3.5 million units worldwide, so very impressive numbers for MLB The Show 20. Now that franchise will actually be multi-platform here soon, so those numbers will increase furthermore when they're available on Xbox, PC, and maybe the Switch as well. Nioh 2 though did not reach the top 10, and that was a new AAA release for the PlayStation 4. That doesn't necessarily mean it did bad, but it is a franchise that I think would have benefited from being a multi-platform game, but I didn't really see a lot of marketing for this game, so I imagine it's probably performing to its expectations. Overall though, it was an amazing month for games. PlayStation did well, Xbox did too, and Nintendo just knocked it out of the park, so big congrats to everybody here. In other news, something we talked about yesterday was some kind of console event in the month of May, but now we're starting to see things form a little bit because it is being reported that the Xbox Series S will be revealed in May. Now we have seen the Series X, the most powerful console ever made, but we've known for a while now that Microsoft is working on another console, Project Lockhart. This console is supposed to be a more budget-friendly option, so it will not be as powerful as the Series X, but from my understanding, it is targeting 1080p and 60 frames per second. So according to Windows Central, this Project Lockhart, the Xbox Series S, might be revealed in May. There is no guarantee on this, but Windows Central did report that employees are now taking home the Series S to test it in real-world situations. So the rumor for a May reveal does line up. Then the Video Game Chronicles, which is really starting to make a name for themselves, are saying that they are hearing something similar as well. So mark your calendars for May because we are probably going to get the Series S reveal then. What is the Series S though, and why do we need it? Well, the Series X, not to be confused with the Series S, is meant for the hardcore enthusiasts who want the best console they can possibly get, running at 4K resolution while maintaining 60 frames per second. That will not be cheap though. Best case scenario, the Series X will probably be around $500, and I wouldn't be surprised if it's north of that number. The thing is, if you look at this generation, the Xbox One S actually outsold the Xbox One X. The same can be said for the PlayStation 4 and the PlayStation 4 Pro. The reason for that is quite simple too. Price matters to consumers. Most consumers will rather choose the more affordable model than shelling out an extra couple $100 for a more powerful console. With that said, they're still both important because there are still plenty of people who do want power, hence why Xbox is making 2 consoles. Right now it is expected that the Series S will be a 4 teraflop console based off of Radeon A2 architecture, and again this is meant to be a 1080p machine running at 60 frames per second. And before you get ahead of yourself, you're probably thinking, well, the Xbox One X has more teraflops than the Xbox Series S, so it's more powerful than the Series S. And, well, that's where you're wrong. The Series S will likely be based off of Navi, whereas the Xbox One X was Polaris, so teraflops are not measured the same. Even though the Series S is less, it is more efficient, and then we have to look at other components as well, such as RAM and the CPU, and this is something I keep bringing up. The biggest difference from this generation to next is not necessarily the graphics card. I mean, when you look at the Series X, its graphics card is an absolute monster, but the big difference is the processor. See, this generation, even though the Xbox One X had a pretty good video card, its processor was out of whack. In other words, it was a bottleneck, and that is something we won't have to worry about next generation because the graphics card and the processor is much more balanced this time around, and that is why the Xbox Series S will likely phase out the Xbox One X. And also don't worry about the Series S holding back the Xbox Series X either. PC gaming has been doing this for a long time. Games scale up and down, whether that be the shadows, lighting, textures, anti-aliasing, and the list just goes on and on from there. This is more about options, but instead of listening to me, let's go back over this topic when we get the official specs for the Series S, which looks like will be revealed next month. What do you think though? If you have the option to get the Series S or the Series X, which would you get? Let me know in the comments below. Now we do have one last topic to talk about because Xbox Game Studios have bailed out on NVidia Geforce game streaming. This does make sense considering Xbox has their own streaming service xCloud, which they're going to want to use, but for anybody who supports Geforce, I mean, I feel for you. The problem right now though is that most publishers have left Geforce, which puts them in a really weird situation. So why is everybody leaving exactly? Well, this can be for a few different reasons. In Xbox's case, they have their own streaming option. For others though, they could theoretically be working on their own streaming service, or they want some kind of royalty fee for supporting a streaming service. So maybe they go with xCloud instead because maybe they pay more. That's just a theory, but the streaming wars are really starting to heat up. Anyways though, that's it for this episode, but if you liked the video, don't forget to hit the bell notification and subscribe button for more content just like this. Peace out.